What's up, my central unit? Is the Central Man here. So, haven't really done these videos for a very long time. I think the last one I did was ranking, I think it was ranking England's tournaments. And before that, I think I did, ranking, Chelsea managers. That was about football. This time, I'm going to do about pro wrestling. So anyway, we got Money in the Bank this weekend. So I'm going to do right now. Oh, click the wrong one. So anyway, if you got a chance to see it, so I did a tier list for all. I think we got about, I think, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19, 20, 24, 26, 28. We got 28 winners of Money in the Bank. Mr. Money in the Bank winners. I'm not doing the women's Money in the Bank winners. That'll be a future tier list stream for another time. Because this year is 20 years since Money in the Bank has created. It's been around for 20 years, 28 winners. So what I'm gonna do is it's set up like thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, and thumbs down. The thumbs up means like it was the right person won the briefcase. Thumbs in the middle is basically an okay decision, and thumbs down is basically the wrong person won Money in the Bank. So anyway, I'm gonna go back and forth. Check the chat. Check the comments on the chat. So anyway, let's enjoy this stream, folks. Let's do it. Drinking Guinness. So the first winner of Money in the Bank is the Rated R Superstar Edge. So again, we've got got this thing on the screen. But anyway, Edge. Edge, I'm going to put in thumbs up. I think Edge winning the briefcase, this was at WrestleMania 21, in 2005, 20 years ago. It was 20 years ago. Really, it was 20 years ago, about in April. I don't know. I can't remember most of the ladder matches of Money in the Bank, but Edge winning was the right call, I think, because Edge was on this redemption redemption arc, because Edge missed the 2 WrestleManias due to his neck injury, missed 19 and 20, came back, I think it was the Raw after WrestleMania 20. He ended up beating Randy Orton for the Intercontinental title. Unfortunately, his babyface run was getting stale. You could by the time you hit SummerSlam 2004, he was booed in his hometown of Toronto. He ended up turning heel. I think Edge winning that briefcase at WrestleMania 21 was the right decision. It really kicked up. Get my words. Oh God, I'm trying to get my words up. Words out. It kind of kicked off Edge's main event push. He went on to win multiple world titles. In the next several years. He was the first person to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. It was at New Year's resolution in 2006. This was after John Cena retained the WWE Championship inside of the Elimination Chamber. Out comes Vince McMahon and Edge giving Vince the briefcase, and Edge beat Cena to win his first world championship in his career, because Edge was been in the company about 7-8 years since his debut. It's really like transformation for Edge. He was, you could say, in his first year in '98, he was kind of like a singles guy. Then he ended up becoming the tag team guy with teaming up with Christian, part of the Brood. Then Edge and Christian. Then he was the mid card singles guy again. In the really in the early 2000s. Then he got injured. Then he came back, turned heel. Now he's a main eventer. He went on to win several more world titles in the next several years. His first title reign was a bust. He ended up dropping the WWE Championship to John Cena a few weeks later at the Royal Rumble. That was just really what's the point having him, winning the title in the first place? But I think it was a big deal to have the person to cash in and win the title, because trying to get this new concept off the ground, because everyone knows the story. Money in the Bank was created by Chris Jericho. Anyway, any comments? No. Anyway, let's continue. Anyway, so but anyway, so like I said, it was created by Chris Jericho. He never won Money in the Bank, it's a shame, but trying to get that new concept going, I think the right person won this match. Edge was the right person. Yeah, he had Benoit, Shelton Benjamin, Chris Jericho, like I said. I think you had let's see. There's a lot of people. Christian in it as well. It was Shelton Benjamin, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Christian, Kane, Edge. I think it was 6 people. I can't remember who's in it, but anyone could be the Money in the Bank, the first ever Mr. Money in the Bank, and Edge is the first person to win it. So yeah. Here's a thumbs up. So let's move on to the next one. The next one, the second ever Mr. Money in the Bank is, Rob Van Dam. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Hear me out. He won the Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania 22 in the second ever Money in the Bank ladder match. I think he entered it as Intercontinental Champion. You can see it on the or maybe before that. I think he won it from Shelton Benjamin because he was doing the whole Mama gimmick. That was completely dumb. But anyway, so for Rob Van Dam winning was the right call, because the guy's been in for 5 years. He came from, he debuted, even though he made a few appearances in '97, but he was kind of under contract at ECW. But he's, on top of his first time, as a full-time wrestler in the company, I think it was the right call, because he pitched, everyone knows the story. He pitched the whole idea to Vince McMahon to do an ECW revival. Vince give RVD's blessing, and they did that one night only show. I've announced I will do that review of One Night Stand 2005, because we're close to the 20 years anniversary of that show. Before I continue it, I need to charge my laptop. It's nearly out of power. Anyway, let me check. It's gonna be awkward going back and forth. So, nothing at the time. But anyway, so RVD, like I said, won the briefcase. I think he was the first wrestler to have his custom Money in the Bank briefcase, instead of like randomly cash in the briefcase. He announced that he was the first person to announce he's going to cash in the briefcase. He challenged John Cena to a match at 1X10 2006. Two guys in the same year beat John Cena for the championship. This time it was the help by Edge. Edge speared Cena through the table. Already won the WWE Championship for the first time in his career. I think he said he's gonna turn the WWE title into the ECW World title. And it's funny that he ended up having not just the he crowned as the WWE champion, he ended up becoming the ECW champion on the ECW brand, because at the time ECW was revived as the third brand. I might do a video on ECW as the third brand in the future when it gets to 20 years of ECW as the third brand. Now I can really talk about that, but for the time being, so you thought RVD's on Cloud 9. He's now both the WWE and the ECW World Champion. Unfortunately, his title runs came to a halt because RVD fucked himself over because he got arrested due to possessions of drugs. He lost the ECW title to the Big Show by the help by Paul Heyman. RVD, I think he retained his WWE title against Edge at Vengeance, and then I think it was the next night on Raw, he ended up dropping the belt to Edge, and that was it. It's a shame, but I think the second ever, I don't really put thumbs in the middle, but I think thumbs up was the right decision, even though I think you had Bobby Lashley, you had Ric Flair, I think you had Matt Hardy. I think RVD was the right decision. I think that, even though I think he was the guy, I think knowing that could be his last push in his career, because I think the guy was in his mid-30s at the time. It's a shame he fucked himself over, but I think it was the right decision to put the briefcase, giving the briefcase onto RVD. So the next one is Mr. Kennedy. Boy, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, with Mr. Kennedy. With Mr. Kennedy, no one on the chat, but anyway, with Mr. Kennedy, it's hard to say. He won the briefcase at WrestleMania 23. Boy, I can't say. I can't really say at this moment. I was going with thumbs down, but I'm gonna put him in the middle. I'm gonna play in the middle, man. It's hard to say thumbs down, but he here's the story. Mr. Anderson. I almost called him Mr. Anderson, but Mr. Kennedy, won the briefcase, Mania 23. After that, he said it on a podcast with Chris Vanderlei that he was supposed to cash in the briefcase on The Undertaker because The Undertaker was legit injured his bicep. He beat and retained his World Heavyweight Championship against Batista on SmackDown, and then and then Undertaker got beaten down by Mark Henry. That's a way to ruin off the dead man. He's supposed to cash in the briefcase onto the Undertaker to win the world title. Unfortunately, he got injured. He injured his tricep. He lost the briefcase on a Raw. I think it was a few weeks later after he win the briefcase at Mania 23. He lost the briefcase to Edge, and he went to the doctors, and the doctors told Mr. Kennedy that he didn't really torn his tricep. He ended up had a hematoma, and I was really hinting that I put thumbs down, but it's a situation that thumbs down. I think he has the record of. I think he's the first guy to win the money. Oh, he's the first of two people to win the Money in the Bank briefcase and never got a chance to cash it in. So it's hard to say. It's hard because I'm going to put thumbs down for I'm going to put thumbs down for the time being. You know, there's plenty of worse winners of Money in the Bank. Worst Mr. Money in the Bank holders, but I don't say Mr. Kennedy was the worst Money in the Bank holder or the winner. But it's the same thing actually. But yeah, it's because he never got a chance to cash in the briefcase. I might put it in the middle, but anyway, so let's talk about the guy who beat Mr. Kennedy for the briefcase. I think it's the first time that a person won the briefcase, even though he didn't win the Money in the Bank ladder match. So let's move on to Edge. I'm going to put him in thumbs in the middle because he cashed in on The Undertaker, you know, become the ultimate opportunist. Even though I think his first cash-in was a bit better. But like I said, Edge is on at the time a 2-time WWE champion, you know, because he beat John Cena at New Year's Revolution in 2006. Then later on in the year, he ended up dropping the belt back to Cena at the Rumble. Then months later, he ended up beating Rob Van Dam on, I think it was the Raw After Vengeance. And then he ended up continuing his rivalry with John Cena. You know, he lost the WWE title in the TLC match against Cena in his home town of Toronto at Unforgiven in 2006. But anyway, so, you know, because at the time he entered he kind of like, you know, he won. He was a former 2-time WWE champion, and he was at the time I think he ended up like ending his tag team part. Yeah, he was in a tag team with Randy Orton, you know, Rated RKO. I think that tag team came to an end because Randy was on Raw, Edge was on SmackDown. He cashed in the briefcase on The Undertaker, become the world champion for the first time. You know, winning the big gold belt. That makes him a 3-time world champion because 2-time WWE champion, 1-time world champion. He ended up feuding with Batista for months until he ended up getting injured, and then it set up the fucking Great Khali's world title run. You know, set up that horrifying feud with Batista against the Great Khali going into the summer and the autumn or the fall of 2007. So yeah, I put him in the thumbs in the middle for Edge, even though he held the briefcase for the short periods of time. When Edge won the briefcase for the first time, he held it for months. He won it. I think it was April to January. You know, April 2005 to January 2006. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. About, you could say, almost 10 months as champion. For Edge, I think it was a month or two. I think it was a month since he held that briefcase. So it's just what it is. So anyway, let's move on to the next Money in the Bank holder. And this one is CM Punk. I'm tempted to go thumbs up, but I'm going thumbs in the middle. Check. Actually, I'm going. Fuck it, man. But anyway, so let's talk about CM Punk. So CM Punk won the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 24. He should have been Money in the Bank winner. He should have won this match. Originally, it was supposed to be Jeff Hardy to win the briefcase, but unfortunately, he got suspended due to the wellness policy. So Punk won the briefcase at that time in 2008. And then he held the briefcase about a few months until I think it was June of 2008. He really cashed the briefcase onto Edge because Edge, in the past two, when Edge was the holder of the Money in the Bank briefcase, he ended up cashing on his opponents. But this time around, he's taking his taste of his own medicine. You know, he got attacked by Batista. You know. And then CM Punk cashing that briefcase on Raw onto Edge to win the world champion for the first time. You could say 2-time, even though he's won the world title in the past. You know, he was the ECW world champion on the ECW brand. He was Ring of Honor World Champion before signing with WWE, but this is WWE, by the way. But anyway, I think winning the world title for Punk was an okay decision, but I think it's like his first run in the company, not first run in the company, his first run as world champion was a bit okay. I think he was kind of like an afterthought after this, because I think he was just a typical mid-carder holding the title. It didn't really elevated him like Edge and RVD, you know, like of his first run. I think at the time he was on Raw, you know, he was on ECW, then he was on Raw. You know, he's now he's on the Raw brand, but I think he was kind of falling off the pecking order. You got like at the time you had John Cena, you had JBL, you had Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton, Batista, you know, you could say Kane, you know, Rey Mysterio. You know, he's kind of like falling off the pecking order. His world title run was a bit, I think his first run as world champion was forgettable. He ended up like got a chance to never got a chance to defend the title. That was unforgettable in 2008. In the Championship Scramble match, he got punted in the head by Randy Orton. That led up to his feud with Randy Orton a few years later down the road in 2011. But you know, I think he was a cookie cutter at the time. Yeah, like I said, he's only there because Jeff Hardy got suspended. But it's just what it is, man. You know, I think like his ECW title reign was, you know, flopped, and his first world title reign was a flop. I think Punk in his first few years in the company was a cookie cutter. You know, he's just basically a worn down version of CM Punk. You know, he'll get better, you know, later on his first run in WWE, but we'll get to that soon. But back then, he was not really elevated. He was just kind of like, he's not the same guy he's going to be in Ring of Honor, you know. But back then, he was just, well, yeah, he was just basically a normal guy on the roster, you know, like, you know, the opinions of Punk was same. He's just a normal guy on the roster, you know. Go watch, don't believe me, go watch CM Punk's documentary, Best in the World, you know, for more information. So, anyway, speaking of Punk, I'm trying to find. They uploaded it? Wait, hold on. I found it. It was right in my eye. So, anyway, I'm going to put Punk, his second time around, thumbs up. He is, to this day, the first and only guy to win the Money in the Bank ladder match back-to-back. You know, he won it in 2008 at WrestleMania 24. Now he's won it at WrestleMania 25. I think his second run was a bit better. He ended up cashing the briefcase about, May or June. I think it was May or June of that year. A few months later, on Jeff Hardy, after Jeff Hardy had that ladder match against Edge. And this is leading up to CM Punk's heel turn. I think it was a good character change for CM Punk. He went on to have a good feud with Jeff Hardy throughout the whole summer of 2009 because of both like have different personality, you know, lifestyles. You know, CM Punk is straight edge. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't smoke. Yeah, Jeff Hardy is kind of like the alcoholic, the drug addict. You know, I'm not crapping it in the right way. You know, he just see like Jeff Hardy as, you know, an addict. But he ended up forming the Straight Edge Society. I think his second Money in the Bank win, it kind of elevated Punk into that, like briefly in that world title scene later down the road. You know, he was the world champion on SmackDown, and then a few years later he was the WWE champion. You know, like before that, you know, the guy was the tag team champion with Kofi Kingston. You know, that was during his like first run in the world world champion. He was Intercontinental champion, you know, in the start of 2009. Then won the briefcase. Now he won the world title. He went on to become really the top heel on SmackDown of that year. Formed the Straight Society, you know, and then he ended up, you know, becoming the new leader of the New Nexus, and then he ended up doing that infamous pipe bomb promo on Raw, and then that that really made him a big star overnight, and he became WWE champion 2 years later. So yeah, I think it really elevated him. At the time, I'm gonna put him. It's hard to say. I'm gonna put him second above RVD. With RVD, he never got the time. I think Punk's title reigns, he won the belt in, I think it was May of June of 2009, dropped it to Jeff Hardy in July of 2009 at Night of Champions, and then he ended up regaining the world title back at SummerSlam at TLC. He went up feuding with The Undertaker in the autumn of 2009. But, with RVD, kind of, I think, like, Punk's second briefcase elevated him. With RVD, like I said, that drug possession thing kind of fucked him up. He never reached that main event scene in WWE ever again. So moving on to, let's move on to 2000. This is 2009. Let's move on to 2010. And the 2010 Mr. Money in the Bank holder is the All-American Jack Swagger, aka Jake Hager. Jack Swagger, I'm going to put him thumbs down above Mr. Kennedy. Can I do that? Or anyway, so yeah, this guy, I think it was the biggest mistake putting the briefcase onto Jack Swagger. He won the briefcase. I did a review of WrestleMania 26 last year, but him winning the briefcase was the biggest mistake. It was the last Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania until they did Money in the Bank pay-per-view. We'll get to the Money in the Bank pay-per-view era of Money in the Bank sooner. But with Jack Swagger is the last winner to win the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania. It was the wrong call he teased the cash-in onto John Cena, but instead, I think it was a few days later on SmackDown, the first SmackDown after WrestleMania 26, he cashed the world title onto Chris Jericho, won the world title for the first and only time in his career. His world title reign was a flop, and this is, I think, the problem. This is the problem with Money in the Bank over the years. I feel like they're putting the briefcase on guys they're not really quite ready yet. Like, you thought almost, like, look at CM Punk. You thought, he was the first guy to do it. He was quite not ready to become world champion. Second time around, because of the heel turn, that kind of gives him that he was doing the straight edge thing. With Swagger, his run was a flop. I think he defended the world title once. That was against I think it was once or twice. He ended up, I think he fought against Randy Orton for the world title at Extreme Rules in 2010. He had a match against the Big Show at Over the Limit. I thought that wasn't by a DQ. His world title reign was a completely flopped. He ended up dropping the world title to Rey Mysterio in the Fatal 4-Way match at Fatal 4-Way. Then he lost the rematch against Rey Mysterio at Money in the Bank in July. And that's the last time we see Jack Swagger in the world title picture for 3 years until he ended up feuding with Alberto Del Rio, becoming this serious Jack Swagger, the real American Jack Swagger with the people. And after that, he never got a sniff of the world title ever again. So yeah, that was the biggest mistake. It's funny that Swagger, before that, the guy, he did won a title in the past before he won the briefcase. The guy was a former ECW world champion on the ECW brand. That was in late 08, early 2009. Then after that, he done nothing. And then he won the briefcase, won the world title. And then once he lost the world title, he done nothing, until he won his final championship in his run in WWE was the United States title. That was in 2012. He didn't do nothing with that title, and that was it. So, so I put him at the time the worst Money in the Bank holder in WWE history for now in this video. So moving on to the Money in the Bank era. And the next one I'm gonna talk about is the Big Red Machine, aka the Devil's favorite demon, Kane. I'm gonna put thumbs in the middle. And hear me out. He's the first person in history to win the Money in the Bank ladder match and cash in the briefcase on the same night to win the world title. He cashed in the world title on Rey Mysterio because at the time Kane was doing this whole storyline, to find out who is the guy who attacked the Undertaker, put him in a vegetated state. Because I know the story now because Undertaker confirmed that he got his nose broken, his orbital bone in his eye broken by the hands of Rey Mysterio. I think he said it in his own podcast. But anyway, so Kane winning the briefcase, it was an okay decision, knowing that it's going to be this run is going to be Kane's last run as a wrestler. I think they capitalized on it. He ended up winning the briefcase, winning the world title on the same night at the first ever Money in the Bank briefcase. He went on to hold the belt. They give him a lengthy run as the world heavyweight champion. He was world champion in the past. The guy was WWF champion in 1998, beat Stone Cold Steve Austin at King of the Ring, and then he ended up dropping the title back to Austin the following night on Raw. And then that was a lengthy drought for Kane of not winning another world title until winning the ECW title a decade later. Do I count this as a world championship? Time will tell. But anyway, he was the world champion on the ECW brand. That was a bit forgettable for Kane. He won a Battle Royal at WrestleMania 24, beat Chavo Guerrero for the title, and then he ended up having a forgettable run as world champion. But this time around was a bit, you could say it's a little bit forgettable. You end up having awful matches against The Undertaker. He had a crappy feud with The Undertaker. 3 pay-per-view matches. That Night of Champions, the Hell in a Cell match, that was just not good. It was not bad, but it's just meh. The Buried Alive match, with The Undertaker at bragging rights. And then he ended up feuding with Edge. This would revolve around Paul Bearer, Edge, kidnapping Paul Bearer, torturing him, and teasing Kane like he's going to attack the real Paul Bearer, but unfortunately that was a dummy, and Kane was a bit of a dumbass. He actually pushed Paul Bearer over a ladder. I think it's off a bridge or something. I'm not too sure of it. So, he ended up dropping the title to Edge at TLC. That was probably Edge's last world title run, of his career. He's never won a world title ever since. But I put him in the third, knowing that he's good. He's the first SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder winner or holder. It's the same thing actually, but anyway, so let's move on to the next one. The next one, I'm gonna say The Miz. I was hoping thumbs in the middle, but I think Miz went on to win the briefcase. I'll put it for now in the thumbs up category in the section. Same thing actually, but I might put in thumbs down. Thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. But anyway, hear me out. Miz won the title. Keep clicking if you tab at StreamYard.com. But anyway, Kane won the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match. Miz won the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match. I think it was a right call. Even though Miz is not everyone's cup of tea, I think it was an okay building the next star. I thought Randy Orton's going to win it. I can't remember who's in that Money in the Bank ladder match. I think it was Jericho, Edge, Evan Bourne, The Miz. Boy, did R-Truth in it? John Morrison in it? I can't remember who's in on the Raw side. The SmackDown side, you had Matt Hardy, Christian, maybe MVP. Big Show's in it. Did CM Punk was in it? I can't remember. It's been a long time since I reviewed Money in the Bank 2010. But anyway, I think Miz winning was the right call. I think this is elevating Miz to the next level. He kind of enter it. The guy was, the guy once he was Raw Mr. in the Bank. Raw Mr. Money in the Bank holder. The guy was the United States champion. Before that, he was the tag team champion with the Big Show. And then once that tag team was gone, SmackDown, Big Show went to SmackDown. He went on to win he kind of traded back and forth for the United States title to R-Truth. Then he won it back. He lost the title again to Bret Hart. Then he won it back again. He ended up dropping the United States title once again to Daniel Bryan at Night of Champions, while he still holding the Mr. Money in the Briefcase, because at the time he had Alex Riley, his protege from NXT, the second series of NXT, because at the time NXT was a game show, not the NXT you see right now. Anyway, so he cashed in the briefcase onto Randy Orton. This was the Raw after Survivor Series. I think Orton retained the WWE title against Wade Barrett. Miz came along, cashed in the briefcase onto Randy Orton, and beat him. That lead up to the whole Miz girl. There was a scene of the girl, I think it was the Miz girl, giving that dirty look towards the Miz when he won the title. Miz's title run was underrated, like completely he was really underrated, to be honest, man. Like, he went on to hold the belt, even though people talk about his, he ended up like main event WrestleMania 27, one of the worst WrestleManias in the Mullen era. He fought against John Cena. The Rock came along. That's just basically just live action promotion of WrestleMania 28, of the main event of the following year's WrestleMania between Cena and The Rock. Anyway, so Miz's title reign was a bit underrated. Doesn't get any respect, He had to end up going back, even though Miz was end up chasing after the title. He was basically in the mix in the WWE title picture after losing the WWE title, to John Cena, because he lost it in the triple threat match at Extreme Rules against him, Cena, and John Morrison. Lost again to John Cena at Over the Limit in 2011, and then again he was in the mix, the next couple of years. He ended up going back into that mid-card position after that. I think it did elevate him, really put him on the map. It really put him on the map, because since then Miz was kind of he was doing the whole on the Miz, I'm awesome. Before that, he was in the tag team with John Morrison. But I think before that, since winning the United States title, teaming up with the Big Show, winning the briefcase, it really put the Miz's career on the map. And he's still, even though in hindsight he's going to leave WWE this year, he was in the company to this day, winning multiple championships. We'll talk about the Miz again later on in this live stream. But I put Miz. I'm going to put him third for the time being, because at least Miz, hear me out. At least Miz holding the belt. He held the briefcase longer than RVD. RVD held it for 2 months. I think it was 2 or 3 months until he cashed in at 1X10 2006. And his title reign was very short. With Miz's title reign, it lasted about 4 months now. November of 2010 to May of 2011. He had a good run as WWE champion, even though he was booked a mid-carder. But I think they give him a chance, even though the Miz is not everyone's cup of tea. They made a star out of him. Anyway, it did elevate Miz. So moving on to 2011, I'm gonna go with Alberto. Yeah, let's go Alberto Del Rio. I'm gonna go in the middle. Del Rio won the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match in Money in the Bank 2011. Even though right now he's a piece of shit, there's rumors he's coming back. That's another story for another time. But with Del Rio winning the briefcase, because at the time he debuted in 2010, they tried to push him. They put him in the world title picture. I think it was a fatal 4-way match for the world title at TLC. I think it was a TLC match. Or maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember what stipulation that, he didn't win it because the testing the waters, man. Dan Del Rio at the time won the biggest Royal Rumble match in history until 2018. He won the 40-man Royal Rumble match. You know, he go on to face the world champion Edge at WrestleMania 27, lost that match. You know, he ended up losing the ladder match to Christian after Edge retire. You know, he's kind of in that mix. And then fast forward in the summer of 2011, Del Rio won the Raw, like I said, won the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match. And then 1 month later, he cashing the briefcase onto CM Punk after the return of Kevin Nash. Anyway, so Del Rio won the briefcase, won the title. He ended up dropping the title to John Cena and Night of Champions the following month. Then 1 month later, he regained the title in the Triple Threat Hell in a Cell match against Cena and CM Punk. And then he retained against John Cena. It was a last man standing match at Vengeance. And then, yeah, dropping the title to CM Punk at Survivor Series. So, anyway, so yeah, I think like he held the briefcase for 1 month. It's hard to say this. I'm going to put him in the third category, surpass Kane. Because with Kane, he held it for 1 day. Like, well, I don't know 1 day. I think it was 40. I think he held it for an hour until the Jack Swagger match. You know, after the Rey Mysterio Jack Swagger match with Del Rio, he held it for like a month. His title reign's about very short, you know. Like Kane held it for like until it was July to December. With Del Rio, he won it. Like I said, won it in August. Dropped the title in September. Won the title back in October. Retained it in October, and they dropped it in November. So it's kind of hard to say. It's like I'm putting it. It's hard to say. Like. It's really hard to say, man, but yeah, it's hard to really say, man. Anyway, between Kane and Del Rio, you know, but anyway, let's move on to the next one. The next one is Daniel Bryan. I'm gonna put in thumbs up. Like Bryan won the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match. They really are building the star of Daniel Bryan because he debuted in 2010. You know, he got fired because choking Justin Robinson's necktie. Then he came back, you know, part of the Team WWE Team Nexus match at SummerSlam. Still continuing his feud with The Miz, won the United States title, lost the United States title to Sheamus. On SmackDown, he was not really doing anything. He ended up losing matches. He ended up losing matches more than that. I think he ended up like feuding with Wade Barrett. I think he feuded with Cody Rhodes. I think he feuded with Sin Cara. He feuded with Mark Henry in the autumn of 2011. I think he was kind of in the mix. He lost to Mark Henry as the world champion on SmackDown. He didn't really cash in the briefcase. You know, he announced that he's gonna cash in the briefcase at WrestleMania. Unfortunately, he didn't do it. He cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase onto the Big Show after he beat Mark Henry in the chess match at TLC, and then Bryan cashed in the SmackDown Money in the Bank briefcase onto the Big Show, become the world champion. I think Big Show held it about 15 seconds. That led up to, I think that really elevated Daniel Bryan. You know, he ended up turning heel. He ended up doing the yes chants and the no chants. He had a decent run as world champion. Like, this is revolved around AJ Lee. You know, because at the time, because you know the story, she was, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, whatever you call him, was at the time still in the relationship with Brie Bella. You know, they're still together to this day. But anyway, so he held the world title for like December to April. I think it was the 1st of April of 2012. You know, he defended the world title at the Royal Rumble in the Triple Threat Steel Cage match against Big Show and Mark Henry. retained the world title in the I can't call it SmackDown because at the time there is no brand split. It was in the post brand exclusion era, so he won the world title elimination chamber match. He ended up dropping the world title back to he dropped the world title to Sheamus in 18 seconds in the opener of WrestleMania 28. He was still in the mix. He ended up losing the rematch against Sheamus at Extreme Rules. Then he went on to feud with CM Punk in the summer of 2012 over the WWE Championship. He was still in the mix. It really elevated him. And then, funny that he ended up forming my favorite tag team of all time. My personal tag team of all time, Team Hell No, with Kane. Had a good run as the tag team champions, and then he went on to win the WWE Championship in 2013. Even though winning the championship against John Cena, dropping it to Randy Orton, winning it back, and then he went on to have that WrestleMania moment at WrestleMania 30 in 2014, a show I reviewed in the past. It really elevated him, even though his run in WWE was cut down due to injury. And he ended up coming out of retirement, win another final world title in his run in the company. It really pushed him as a star. I think Money in the Bank, it's a make or break situation of stars. They end up be elevated, becoming stars, and they end up some of them end up winning the briefcase, hold the briefcase, and never really panned out, as stars, with Mr. Kennedy, with Jack Swagger, Del Rio, great example. That really hindered him. He did elevate him, but at the same time, kind of hindered him at the same time. It's a bit of a middle of the road of his career, even though the guy is a piece of shit. Don't want to get into that. So anyway, that was 2011. Let's go to 2012, and let's go this man, John Cena. Hard to say. I put him thumbs down. That was the biggest mistake they do that, putting the briefcase onto John Cena. Because at the time he was still doing this feud. He was continuing his feud with the Big Show for the third time, fourth time, how many times they fought against the Big Show, won the briefcase, announced that he's going to cash in the Raw briefcase against CM Punk at Raw 1000. He did that, but unfortunately, he felt he's the first guy in history of Money in the Bank to win the briefcase and fail to cash in to win the title, because Big Show basically interfered. This set up the triple threat match at SummerSlam of that year, but instead they're building up for two matches for 2013. CM Punk versus The Rock and Rock versus Cena for Mania 29. So you're in a situation, man. I think it was the wrong person, because at the time I think the person should have won that Money in the Bank ladder match for Raw is Chris Jericho, but instead I think he's pushed was shut down due to the events he did in Brazil. That's another story, another time. Look it up. But yeah, it was a bad decision, man. It's I'll put him second worst for now. At least with Swagger, I put him at number one, because at least Swagger successfully cashed in the briefcase and won the world title, even though his world title reign was a flop. So drinking my Guinness. Moving on to the next one. The next one is Dolph Ziggler. I put him thumbs up. I think Ziggler winning the briefcase was the right call, because even though in hindsight Ziggler's run in WWE ended up falling down, it was going downhill. He at the time, I think they're seeing something into Ziggler. Was it 2010, 2011 was, and even 2012, that was peak Ziggler. Because he was doing the storyline with this. You could say this on-air relationship with Vicky Guerrero. The guy captured the Intercontinental title, the United States title, and now he's just won Money in the Bank. the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match, and he's now the holder of the SmackDown Money in the Bank briefcase. So he held the briefcase for a very long time until he cashed in that briefcase. I'm gonna put him in second best, because he cashed in the briefcase onto Del Rio, that Raw, the Raw after Mania 29. It was good, he was he got that reaction, like the crowd did that reaction, man. That was kind of cool. Anyway, so yeah, he cashed it over. I think he beat Del Rio beat Swagger to retain the World Championship. And then Ziggler cashed in the briefcase, because at the time he was doing this storyline with him and AJ Lee, and also you got Big E Langston. I'll get to Big E soon as his bodyguard. And also Ziggler defended the briefcase not once but twice. I think he beat Jericho for the briefcase on Raw, and then he beat Cena. I think it was the main event, or I don't know, it was the main event. It was at TLC 2012 by the help of AJ Lee. She turned heel. It was a big deal being John Cena, unfortunately his run as world champion was a flop, because he never got a chance to defend it, because he ended up like it was supposed to be a triple threat match at Extreme Rules, but instead, I think it was Del Rio. I don't know. I think it was a ladder match. I can't remember. Ziggler got hurt. He suffered a concussion, and then when he was medical clear to fit, he's medical clear. He's fit enough to compete. I'm trying to say. He ended up losing the world title to Del Rio at Payback. They did the double turn, Del Rio as a heel, Ziggler as a babyface. You had Del Rio kicking Ziggler multiple times in the head. That was basically just the kiss of death, man. I think it was the kiss of death, man. Ziggler was in the mix of the world title. He never reached those heights ever again. This brief moments like the sole survivor of the Team Cena Team Authority match of Survivor Series, but he ended up winning the Intercontinental titles after he won the world title. Even though he's a world champion before, in 2011, that was just still a continuation of the rivalry between him and Edge. But but he never reached those same heights again. They were pushing him in heavily and trying to be, going to be that top star. Unfortunately, he ended up floundering, he ended up going down the card. First he was in the mid card title picture, then he was in the tag team with Robert Roode. Yeah, he ended up turning heel, and then he's doing better right now in TNA, wrestling with under his real name, Nick Nemeth. Winning the world championship. He ended up, I think him and his brother Ryan are the tag team champions in TNA. Just recently feud with the Hardys, But I think if Ziggler stayed fit, would he have a good run as world champion? Would he end up winning multiple world championships in the next couple of years? Liz with Daniel Bryan, won the Money in the Bank briefcase. He ended up elevating, winning more world titles after winning the Money in the Bank briefcase in 2011. And also, he ended up cashing it in the end of the same year, but he ended up winning more titles and becoming a main eventer. With Ziggler, it kind of hindered him. Going down the card, and he ended up floundering. It's a shame. Next one I'm going to put is Randy Orton. Randy Orton. Hard to say. I'm trying to sort out the rankings a little bit. Orton won the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match. That was the final time that Raw and SmackDown do two Money in the Bank ladder matches because the following year because end of the year they both unify both the WWE and World title together. They ended up doing singles Money in the Bank ladder matches between 2014 to 2016 until right now they just do once again going back to doing two Money in the Bank ladder matches, this time for the men and the women. Orton winning it, even though he doesn't really need to win Money in the Bank, because the rumors there I thought RVD is going to win it again because he won it the first time in 2006 because he was coming back to the company, but instead, I remember that Money in the Bank was good because you had CM Punk, Paul Heyman turning on CM Punk, but Orton winning it was the right call. This is leading up to the Authority, even though the Authority thing was shit. He cashed in the briefcase onto Daniel Bryan after he beat John Cena for the title. Triple H pedigree Daniel Bryan. This is leaving up to Bryan's redemption to win the title at WrestleMania 30. Orton winning it was the right call, even though they booked him like shit as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He ended up dropping the title back to Bryan at Night of Champions, and then stripped the title. The title was held up, at Battleground. That was revolved around the Big Show, knocking out both Randy Orton and Bryan. Then Orton retained the title at Hell in a Cell by the help by Shawn Michaels. And yeah, he ended up winning, unifying both the WWE World Heavyweight title together. Even though his run as undisputed or the WWE World Heavyweight Champion reign was a flop. But I think Orton turning heel was the right call because I think he was gone very stale as the babyface. This is like his first heel run for years now, for about 3 years. I think he needed it. So yeah, it's hard to. I put him like number one in this list, in this section, because Edge hold it for a few weeks, Orton hold it for a month, and win. Let's move on to 2000 and actually we got this one, Damien Sandow, and Sandow. Second worst, he was the final SmackDown Money in the Bank winner because, like I said, they both unify both the WWE and World title later on in the year. And he ended up doing singles ladder matches between 2014 and 15 until 2017 onwards. They went back doing two Money in the Bank ladder matches for Money in the Bank, this time for the men and the women. Sandow winning it was, I thought it could really elevated him, but unfortunately it didn't. It didn't really do anything for Sandow's career. His career, he ended up holding the belt until October. He ended up losing to Cody Rhodes and then lost to John Cena. It was the Raw after Hell in a Cell, cashing the briefcase onto Cena. Cena beat them, and that was it. I think his career took a massive hit. It took a massive hit of his career. He never reached the same heights ever again. Yeah, he was Damien Mizdow in 2014-2015 period. That got him over again. Failed to capitalize on that. Then he did this whole bullshit on crappy reboot version of the Mega Powers. That went nowhere because Hogan, because it's due to Hogan got fired for his racial remarks. So yeah, his career took a massive hit. I think it's a shame. I think the guy in the ring, he was just average, but in the as a character, I kind of I kind of dig the whole intellect character he had. He's the the savior of the masses. He's the intellect guy, the smart person, and I think they failed to capitalize on that. And it's a shame for Damien Sandow, aka Aaron Stevens. When I need a toilet, man, I'll be right back. Even it makes so yeah. Anyway, so actually, yeah. Yeah. But a second. Anyway, so yeah, Sandow. Yeah, it's a shame. I thought that's going to elevate him, but unfortunately, yeah, that's the problem with Money in the Bank. Like some it elevated him, those guys to be future main eventers, and some end up falling off the pecking order. They end up like falling guys. You never see the guys ever again. But anyway, let's move on to the next guy. The next person to win Money in the Bank in 2014, the golden briefcase, is Seth Rollins. Yeah, he won the briefcase and he went on to cash. He hold the briefcase that long. He ended up like winning the briefcase. I think it was he won the briefcase at Money in the Bank 2014, holding it for until he cashed in the briefcase at WrestleMania 31 in the main event. It was Reigns. It was Lesnar versus Reigns. He cashed in it, turned it into a triple threat match, beat both Reigns and Lesnar for the championship, become the world champion for the first time. And it's hard to say. I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna say he's probably number one. Like Rollins is still doing this to this day. It kind of elevated him because it transformed Rollins into the tag team guy with teaming up with Reigns. The word tag team. It made him as a Triple Crown champion. Because the guy was the tag. I'm lying. No, he ended up winning the a mid card title. Actually, he ended up winning the United States Championship later on in the year. But so yeah, he ended up like the guy was the tag team champion with with Roman Reigns, part of the Shield. And then once the Shield broke up by Rollins, he became the Architect, part of the Authority. I'm not going to talk about the Authority, but he ended up winning the briefcase. He ended up like having a good feud with Dean Ambrose throughout the whole of 2014, and then he ended up like compete in the triple threat match at the Royal Rumble of 2015. Lesnar, Cena, Rollins. He ended up come up short, and then this time around he just lost to Randy Orton on that same night of WrestleMania 31. He got the last laugh, won the cash in the briefcase. First person to cash in the briefcase at a WrestleMania. This time won the title. So his reign is a bit of a mixed bag, but it kind of elevate Reigns to the next level. He kind of elevate Rollins to the next level. He got injured. He ended up came back, and his first match back in the since the injury was against Roman Reigns. He beat Reigns for the championship, and then he only lasted about a few minutes until Dean Ambrose. We'll get to Ambrose soon, but he ended up winning multiple world championships afterwards. He ended up, even though like he ended up winning the world title. He ended up winning the Universal title twice. He ended up becoming a star to this day. A Triple Crown champion. He's won. Yeah, he's won almost everything. Seth Rollins. Even though Rollins is not everyone's cup of tea, they really built a star in Seth Rollins. Like from the guy was the first, the guy was the first ever NXT champion. Then he was part of the Shield tag team champion. Then, then he was Money in the Bank holder, mid card guy. Then he was world champion. Then, he kind of like slumped down in the mid card a little bit. Then he was a tag team with Ambrose. Then he was in the IC title picture. In the mid card picture, won the Rumble, won a world title. If you count the Universal title as a world championship on the Raw brand. He still, he ended up like turning heel, SmackDown Savior, Monday Night Messiah, Seth freaking Rollins. He's doing right now the storyline with forming this faction with him, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Paul Heyman. He's the guy's been in the company about 13 years now. Wow, I think like with Edge, he knocked Edge off his perch because Edge, he was the first winner of Money in the Bank, but he hold the belt or hold the briefcase longer, but his title reign lasted about 3 weeks. Rollins lasted about until November, or almost, was it late October, early November before he got injured. So anyway, so let's move on to the next one. Is Sheamus in 2015 worse? Like Sheamus, I don't mind Sheamus winning the world title or winning the briefcase because he's just turned heel, new look. But instead, they really booked Sheamus like shit. Like, I think he ended up losing matches or maybe winning matches at the same time. He was basically 50-50 booked. He had that forgettable match against Randy Orton. And then he cashed in the briefcase. The execution at Survivor Series was poor. This was after Reigns won the WWE Championship tournament. So Reigns was the champion. He speared Triple H. Rollins cashed in the. Did he spear Triple H? I can't remember, but I don't remember. But anyway, Sheamus cashed in the briefcase, beat Reigns for the title. His only title defense as WWE World Heavyweight Champion was against Reigns at TLC. That was disappointed. He ended up dropping the title to Reigns. I think it was a week later. Yeah, his reign was they really fucking poorly booked Sheamus, He ended up forming the League of Nations. That was probably one of the worst factions, in living memory. Sheamus is still in the company to this day. I think he was starting to wind down his career. But I feel like his 2015 run was supposed to be big for Sheamus because I don't mind Sheamus winning the briefcase and winning the world title because he hasn't been world champion for a few years. But I think they poorly execute Sheamus's run very poorly, man. It did after that, Sheamus never reached the world title, never got a sniff of the world title ever again. It's a shame. I don't think he's gonna win it ever again because I think the problem with Sheamus, I think he's the guy is nearly is in his 40s now. He's pushing 50. I think it'd be too little, too late. But yep. Let's move on to 2016. Dean Ambrose. He won he's the second person in history to win the briefcase and cash in the briefcase on the same night. He cashed in the briefcase onto Rollins after he beat Reigns for the championship because Reigns got suspended. I don't want to get into that. Look it up. But anyway, Ambrose is very a mystery, because he won the briefcase, won the title. He had, was it 2 title defenses on pay-per-view? The Shield Triple Threat match at Battleground, Ziggler at SummerSlam. He dropped the title to AJ Styles. But after that, he was still in the mix. He had the Triple Threat match, Ambrose, Cena, Styles, and No Mercy. And then he had the blow-off between him and Styles in the TLC match at TLC. That was with overall James Ellsworth. But, I think after that, Ambrose took a hit of his career. At least with Reigns and Runs, he's still the company to this day. They end up winning more world titles, but with Ambrose, yeah, he ended up going back to the mid card and teaming up with Seth Rollins, and then winning another IC title, and then he ended up leaving the company in 2019 to go in AEW. It's funny, right now in AEW, he's a star right now. He's a multiple-time world champion. But in WWE, he's won the briefcase, won the title. I think it was long overdue, and done nothing. I feel like he's just a mid-card holding the belt, and it really it hindered him, to be honest. It hindered Ambrose. It's a point that, like I said, he's falling down the card, and it's just what it is. But I don't want to get any more details of it, so let's move on to the next one. The next one I'm going to put for 2017 is Baron Corbin, SmackDown's money, or the men's Money in the Bank holder, because at the time they brought back the two Money in the Bank ladder matches for Money in the Bank for the men and the women. How am I going to put? I'll put I'm putting it above Mr. Kennedy, because Mr. Kennedy never got a chance to defend it. But with Corbin, man, wrong person to win it. I think AJ Styles was in this ladder match. I thought Kevin Owens was going to be in this ladder match. Can't remember who's in this in that ladder match in 2017, but he won the briefcase, and then I think it was 1 month, 2 months later, I can't remember. I think it was in July on a SmackDown, and Corbin lost. He lost. One second. Oh my, that's my move. Yeah. Anyway, sorry folks, my stomach is killing me, man. But anyways, like with Baron Corbin, man, he just he lost the he won the briefcase. He ended up failed to cash in the briefcase on a SmackDown against Jinder Mahal. Afterwards, he kind of revived himself, winning the King of the Ring tournament. But besides that, man, actually he won the United States title months after he won the briefcase. But he did okay, he did bits, but he never got I think Corbin at the time wasn't ready. I think he was just kind of very bland. It's not like he ended up in later years becoming Constable Corbin, King Corbin, Happy Corbin, multiple gimmicks he's going to have in the next several years. But back then he was kind of like this lone wolf Corbin. I don't know, man. I think it was just a mistake, and I think it did hinder him. It didn't really elevate him. He won a, he ended up winning the United States title, later on at the end of the year. But besides that, he's just like, not the end of the year, but I think it was like October time. I can't remember what month of. I think it was October time. I can't remember. But with Corbin, man, he's just like, he wasn't ready, man. I think he was just like, it was the wrong person. I don't really call him the worst Money in the Bank holder, but no, but he did kind of bounce back afterwards. But yeah, that's my only 2 cents on it, though. Let's move on to Braun Strowman. Thumbs down for me. I don't mind Braun Strowman getting that push. I think they see into Braun Strowman, but there's always a but. But I think he didn't really need to be Money in the Bank winner, because they 2016, 2017 was peak for Braun Strowman. He lost to Brock Lesnar for the Universal title at No Mercy, and then a few months later, he was a sole survivor of the Team Raw Team SmackDown match at Survivor Series. You can tell this they still putting the eggs in the Braun Strowman basket, he end up losing the triple threat match at Royal Rumble 2018. It was Lesnar, Strowman, and Kane. He ended up winning the greatest ever Royal Rumble match at Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. This was after, I think it was a few weeks after he won the tag team titles from The Bar, teaming up with a 10-year-old kid called Nicholas. That was John Cone's son. Anyway, so he won the briefcase. I think he feuded with Kevin Owens for the briefcase. He cashed in the briefcase onto Roman Reigns. I think it was at Hell in a Cell 2018. But Brock came along, ripped the cell door. I think that the match ended in a non-contest. It just set up. It was supposed to be a triple threat match at Crown Jewel, but instead Roman faked the title due to leukemia. So Strowman lost to Lesnar help by Baron Corbin, set up the Strowman-Corbin feud, and that really hurt. I thought that was the final blow of Braun Strowman to have a chance of the world title. He ended up winning the Universal title 2 years later, but that was too little too late. It really hurt Braun. It really hurt him. He never gained that momentum ever again. He came back in 2022, did nothing. Now he's no longer with the company again. In Ultimate Timeline, if they just booked him properly, what might have been? But he's the fourth person in history of winning the Money in the Bank briefcase and fail to cash it in to win a title, a world title. So that was 2018. Wow. We got a streak. 2017, 2018, and 2019. We got this bad streak of guys of winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. And this streak still continued in 2019. Brock Lesnar. Thumbs down. I don't really call him thumbs in the middle, man. I refuse to put thumbs in the middle, man. I think Brock was the wrong choice because this is a few weeks after. This is 3 weeks before AEW did the first half of Double or Nothing pay-per-view. But I think he came out of nowhere, announced he's going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. He went on to win the briefcase. He ended up becoming Bebop's Brock. I was tired of Brock. In this picture, in the world title picture when he was the WWE or even Universal Champion, he won the briefcase, and then I think it was at Extreme Rules. I think it was about 2 months later, because it was in May. It was funny. It's funny that the Money in the Bank pay-per-views, first it was in July, then it was in June, then they moved it to May. It's funny that later on it's funny that I think it was May or June, can't remember. But anyway, a few months later at Extreme Rules, he cashed in the briefcase onto Seth Rollins to become the Universal Champion for how many times now? 3, 4? Can't remember now. I think it's 3 now. It was 3. But anyway, so it makes no difference because he ended up Lesnar ended up dropping the title back to Rollins at SummerSlam. He ended up beating Kofi Kingston for the championship on the first SmackDown on Fox. I don't have a problem with this is 2 years before he ended up becoming a B-Box Brock. I feel the company was shoving Brock Lesnar down people's throats because I'm getting sick of Lesnar. I don't mind the Cowboy Brock stuff. That was kind of fine, cool, fun and dandy. But if it was Cowboy Brock, I could put him in the thumbs, put in this section. But I'm gonna put him in the thumbs down because he doesn't really need to be Money in the Bank. I think it's just keep shoving Brock down our throats, even though he's a part timer. But it's once again Brock winning the title every single time. It gets repetitive. The majority of people getting sick of it, so upon third worst at this moment in time, things will change. Anyway, so let's move on to the next one. So the next one I'm going to put is Otis. I'm going to say right now, he's got to be the worst Money in the Bank holder of all time. Thank fucking God he did not cash in the briefcase. This was during the COVID era. They had this Money in the Bank ladder matches for the men and the women in the headquarters. It's kind of fun and entertaining, but at the same time, the wrong person the wrong person won this match. I was going for AJ Styles going to win it because he never won it. But they had to put the briefcase onto Otis. No disrespect, man. The guy doesn't have the look. He just doesn't really have the look to be a star, man. He doesn't. The only reason why he did this because he was in this storyline with Mandy Rose. That was it. They broke up Heavy Machinery. Yeah, he didn't really. Thank God we didn't have Otis cash in the briefcase and win the title. That was gonna be dumb. But at the same time, I think he didn't do nothing after this. He ended up teaming up with Gable to form Alpha Academy with Akira Tozawa and Maxine Dupree, and they're still forming this group to this day. After Gable formed American Made, but yeah, thank God, man. It was stupid then, stupid now. Like I say, it just doesn't really have the look. I think he held it for months now. He ended up dropping it to the Miz, and afterwards, thank God, man. You imagine Otis winning a world title? I think that'll be a massive flop. He'll be probably the worst world champion in modern history. So, thank God. To this, I think he's probably the worst Money in the Bank holder of all time. Moving on to The Miz. It's hard to say The Miz, compared to his first run as Money in the Bank holder. 8. I don't really call it bad. You know what? It's hard to say. I don't say third loss. Well, I'll put him 4th. 5th? I can't really tell. It's fine. Everyone has an opinion, but I'll put him 5th, man. But yeah, Miz winning the briefcase. I think he beat Otis for the title, and he cashed it onto Drew McIntyre at Elimination Chamber after he got beaten down by Bobby Lashley. It was at the time they were doing the whole Hurt Business faction. He ended up losing it to Bobby Lashley. I think it was a week later, 2 weeks later. I'm not too sure. That was a completely waste of time. Compared to his third, I think at the time Miz was kind of floundering. Like after since his last war, it's been a decade. Yeah, the guy was multiple. He ended up becoming a multiple-time Intercontinental Champion, become a tag team champion, with Mizdow. Since then, yeah, he teamed up with John Morrison. I think his run, the Miz and Morrison reunion, was a flop. And afterwards, he didn't do nothing. I think, yeah, he was a tag team with R-Truth, Austin Truth. But, yeah. But he did do nothing afterwards, Yeah, Miz is leaving this year, I think it was just necessary, Like, if it was a different time, if Miz cashing it months afterwards, it's just the wrong time. It was the wrong place, wrong time. Because he had to get the briefcase off of Otis. That was the wrong decision. If Miz was built up properly, if it was like 2016, 2017, even 2018 Miz, that would be cool. I think give Miz that second world title run. But I think they wasted an opportunity. Yeah, Miz is not everyone's cup of tea. But yeah, I think they left it far too late. And his second run as WWE champion was a flop. So anyway, we've got the final final four winners of Money in the Bank. So the next one I'm gonna put the next one is Biggie Langston. I'm gonna put him maybe fourth. I put him fourth. Like, at the time, I didn't really pay attention to the product because at the time I was covering my channel, Central My Network. I was focused on I was covering the Euros, Euro 2021. I also was covering the MCU like movie review series, the MCU Disney Plus shows like at the time Loki and the What If show. During Biggie Langston's I think he cashed when he not cash in, but when he won, he won the belt, won the briefcase of Money in the Bank 2021. I think it was like later on in the year. I think it was later on in the year. Because Lashley went. I think it was the summertime. I can't remember. I think it was the summertime. I think it was the autumn time that Biggie won the title. Can't remember. But he ended up dropping the belt to Lesnar at day one, and afterwards he went back as a mid-carder like Kofi, and sadly he had that injury in the spring of 2022. In the match against Reg Holland, he did a botch suplex. It landed on his neck, it dropped him on his head, and I think he said in an interview that he's not going to coming back to the ring. It's a shame, man. He's not medical cleared, so it's the shame, man. I don't think he's the worst Hulk. I don't think he's in the. I put him in the middle, but I think it's a long overdue. I think at the time that the whole. I'm not a big fan of the New Day stuff back then, with the goofy stuff. Right now I kind of like it, but right back then it was kind of like past its best. I think it's long overdue. The guy is a Triple Crown champion. The guy, he's been in the company about how many years now? Since 2009. If you watch the documentary, 2009 was 2008, 2009. But he's been on the main roster for 9 years. The guy was Intercontinental champion. He's the tag team champion with the New Day. Now he's world champion. He's was the second. He's the second after. He's the second Black WWE champion, or third actually, because the first one was Kofi, then it was Bobby Lashley, then it was Biggie Langston. I can't really say about his towel run because I didn't really pay attention of it. So I was more focused on the MCU, and I was more focused on the MCU, man. So anyway, I put him in the middle. I don't think it wasn't good or bad. It was just kind of right down the middle. Okay, moving on to the final three. The final three. before that, I need to 1 second. Anyway, I'm just looking. Anyway, let's talk about Austin Theory. Thumbs down, terrible, keep it short, mistake. Won the briefcase. He ended up cashing it on a mid-card belt. Unfortunately, he was cashing the United States title onto Rollins. I think he beat Lashley for the, it's funny, he was handpicked by Vince McMahon. He lost to Pat McAfee at WrestleMania 38 in April. Did do nothing. Then he won the briefcase. I think he ended up winning and losing. I think he ended up losing to Bobby Lashley for the United States title. I think he was United States champion. Then he lost. I can't remember. But anyway, lost to Lashley. He ended up winning the United States title from Rollins. After he failed to cash in the briefcase, he went. It was dumb, and he never done ever since. Who remember his United States title reign? He ended up becoming the WWE Tag Team Champions. The current titles you see right now with Grayson Waller. Yeah, there were the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, and then it was turning into the WWE Tag Team Champions right now. They stopped doing the brand titles, and just going back to the old names of the World Tag Team titles and the WWE Tag Team titles. So it's hard to say. I think he's the second worst Money in the Bank holder of all time. I never got the hype of Austin Theory, man. Not a big fan of the way. I think I kind of praised it a bit because of the storyline between Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis. But besides that, he's kind of like the muscle of the group. But to be honest, he's not super muscly. He's tall, but he's not like a fucking a Batista or fucking Lex Luger type character. He's just average looking, and they pushed him far too soon, and nobody cared. I put Otis as number one because him and Mr. Kennedy are let's Mr. Kennedy put originally was Mr. Kennedy. He was the right person to win it, but the problem is he got injured, and it's a time making opportunity, game changing opportunity. Game opportunity, a game changing opportunity. You thought Kennedy's injury was a short term or long term, but it was a short term. They did a big mistake. With Otis, wrong person won, didn't have the looks. With Kennedy, you can say he's got the looks. You got that his gimmick was over, doing the whole the ring announcing thing that got him over. But with Otis, he's just a jobber. He's just a natural jobber. With Theory, he's the same. He's just a fucking job. He's a fucking jobber, man. He ain't all that. He's just relevant. He's crap before then. He's crap now. I'm sorry. He's just ain't all that. Anyway, let's move on to the final two. Damian Priest, Senor Mr. Money in the Bank. Hard to say. Uh, Hard to say. Like, I would say he's okay. I think he was good. Did I put him over Brian? It's hard to say. I put him in thumbs up, man. I think it was the right call. Like, he had a good, unique look. You know, the Judgment Day was still over, but at the time, like, he won the briefcase, hold the briefcase for months. He's the second person in history to win cash in the briefcase and won the title, because the first one was Seth Rollins in 2015, and then 9 years later in 2000, 9 years later, was it 9 years later? No, I'm lying. 11 years later, it was Damian Priest in 2024. He won the title after CM Punk interfered, cost Drew McIntyre the title after he won the world title from Seth Rollins. So anyway, he went on to have a decent run as world champion. I enjoy his matches against Jey Uso at Backlash France, Drew McIntyre at Clash of the Castle Scotland, Gunther, both at Bash in Berlin and Survivor Series. He had a really good run. I'll put him like bottom or thumbs up because it's too early. Actually, I'm gonna change it. Brian thing, I'm gonna knock it down. Brian, I'll put him in the fifth. I'll put him fifth. Like, Rollins number 1, Edge is number 2, Ziggler. I put him number 4. Actually, I put him number 3. It's really back and forth. It's hard to say, man. But anyway, so boy, it's like, let's move on to the last one. I'm gonna go with Drew McIntyre for now. He's the last Money in the Bank holder. He won it last year. I put it in dead last. I don't mind. I think McIntyre Drew doesn't really need it, because at the time he was world champion before. He was WWE champion, or 2-time WWE champion in 2020. I don't mind Drew. Months ago he was world champion, beating Seth for the championship for the big gold belt on Raw. But yeah, I think did he cash it? I think he cashed it. I think it was Priest. He ended up losing the title to, by the help of CM Punk. This is still the continuation of the rivalry between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. Probably the best rivalry of 2024. Anyway, so yeah, I put him in thumbs down. I put him in thumbs down. I don't say he was the worst. He's another guy who felt, actually, knock him down. Put him like this. Also, he's like the fifth person with Cena, Sandow. Yeah, I say Cena, Sandow, Corbin, Strowman, and McIntyre, and even Theory. He's the sixth person in history to win the briefcase and fail to cash in to win the title. So, Mr. Kennedy, I put him bottom. The reason why I did that, he never got the chance. He never really got a chance because he got injured at the wrong place, or actually at the wrong time. So, but yeah, I think that's it. So, yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing, and that was my tier list for ranking the Money in the Bank holders for the men. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Smash like button, click the like, click the bell. I might do these type of tier list videos or streams in the foreseeable future. Not just I'll do the footballing version of the tier list on the second channel, but on the main channel, it might be wrestling, it might be TV shows, it might be on film. So Anyway, guys, I'm out. Subscribe to the channel. This channel, Centuryman Network, and also subscribe to the secondary channel, the Centuryman Sports channel for more footballs, videos and more. You know, because next month in July I'm covering the Lions tour of Australia. I'm not doing the like the warm-up games, just the test match itself. And yeah, and that's it, man. So like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time. I'm out. Peace.